What we're going to do through this channel is show you things that you can do that are not going to cost you the earth, that are not going to cost you a fortune. Okay, there'll be things that cost money, but there'll be excellent value for money.
Hi, I'm Dizzy and this is De Niro, and today we're going to show you some more of Scotland on a shoestring. Today we're going to show you some of Scotland's most beautiful scenery, and we're going to show you that you don't have to head north to find it.
Now this trip is a bit of a whistle-stop tour, as De Niro and I were heading for England, but we thought we'd go down the scenic A7 and see what we could see. And this was also a reconnaissance trip ahead of future visits, so we'd know next time we went down where we wanted to go and what we wanted to look at.
I really feel I should give a little update on the Scottish weather today. We've got this big shiny thing in the sky that we're not used to seeing. I think it's called the sun, but it doesn't usually put in much of an appearance, so it's nice to have it for company today as we go on our road trip. Having the camera recording this makes me feel like I'm on one of those motoring shows. I bet they've never gone round to Edinburgh City Bypass in a 10-year-old Kia Picanto. And this is where our journey starts, as we pick up the A7 historic route to the Borders from Edinburgh.
The A7 tourist route starts in Edinburgh, and today we're going to head down past Newton Grange for the Scottish Coal Mining Museum, then Crichton for its castle, then Stow, and then Galashiels, Selkirk and Howick, before we finish our journey in Langham, just ahead of the English border.
Just south of Edinburgh at Newton Grange is Scotland's National Coal Mining Museum, which again is worth a visit, another sign of an industrial history that is now unfortunately long gone. The pits have gone, but the memories live on, especially in the local areas where the losses are still keenly felt. We asked De Niro if he'd like an adventure. He said he'd rather have a biscuit.
Pray your indulgence as we take a light detour off the A7. Now I've left De Niro in the car because I'm not sure how he'd get on with these ladies, but we are going to go and see a castle. I don't imagine after his life in the kennels De Niro has ever seen a sheep. Today is not a day to find out what he thinks of them.
And there, with the snowy winter atmosphere thing going on, is Crichton Castle. Built in the 14th century and expanded a few times since then, it is a really, really atmospheric place to visit. Now unfortunately at this time of year it's closed, but we're going to go for a look around the outside and show you what we can see. The castle has quite a long and turbulent history, but rather than bore you with it here, we will put some links up on our website at soas.tv, so you can go and research it for yourself if you are so inclined. With the sun behind it casting it in shadow, it is quite an imposing, sort of gloomy looking place, isn't it? It certainly, you would have seen it from miles around. It's certainly shown the locals who was boss. These buildings have stood for centuries, but the changing climate of late is definitely having a detrimental effect. It's getting a lot wetter, so the sandstone, which is porous, is starting to soak up more moisture, and as a result it's becoming more fragile and crumbly. This will inevitably lead to bits falling off, which is not a great thing on a tourist attraction. You don't want to be sued for somebody getting hit in the head by a big block of the 14th century masonry. And next to the castle are the remains of this old church, which is also very impressive, but unfortunately equally fenced off. I've said it before and I'll say it again, Scotland in the Borders, there are some really, really nice views. Okay, they don't all have a hulking great castle in them, but that certainly adds a certain something, doesn't it? It's just sitting there untouched, just looking really nice in the sunshine. Have I mentioned how much we love a good castle? Well, we love a good castle. One of our favourite brown tourist information signs that we see is anything that says castle. If it says castle, you have to go and visit it. That is the rules. As with most of these things, obviously, the castle stands in quite an imposing position. It was a statement of power, and it had great views over the local countryside, which it could then control. Both the National Trust for Scotland and Historic Scotland have a lot of really impressive buildings and a lot of really impressive places that they look after. So again, we'll put a link up on the website. You can go and check them out and see what they have to offer. There's lots to see all over this country, but the Borders are particularly rich in things to do and places to visit. The castle isn't the only old building around here. The church is quite impressive, and it is looking really good again in this wonderful sunshine. It's weird because it's such a nice bright day, but the light just makes that castle look really intimidating, like someone out of Outlander. The Borders were well served by rail back in the day. Up until 1969, the Waverley Line linked Edinburgh to Carlisle via places like Galashiels and Heriot and here at Stow. Now that line unfortunately closed down and it was all dug up and it was all removed, which was kind of short-sighted because the campaign almost immediately started to have it reopened.
The next train to Edinburgh will be in 45 years.
In 2015, much to the delight of the train spotters, they could dust down their notebooks and their thermos flasks and get back out because the railway was coming back to Galashiels. Just announced the next train is coming from Edinburgh, and I am now running up the stairs, all for you guys so you get a nice video of a train, in case you don't know what a train looks like. And the people on this train that's just going to come past will be saying, look, look, there's a train spotter. If I was a proper train spotter I could tell you what sort of train this is, but it's just, it's a blue one. I think I might have an idea why this line was so expensive. There's a lovely footbridge that they've built that goes across the railway track, and it saves you walking the extra 6 feet to go across the old footpath that goes across the railway track. Okay, somebody thought that was a good idea. Probably somebody that sells bridges. I'm now filming that security camera and it's filming me. Say hello to the security camera. Hello. Now, when the line was reopened, not everybody got their connection restored. Little villages like Heriot, where there used to be a halt, you now can't get on or off the train. Well, you can, but you'd have to jump and it'd probably be quite dangerous, so we really wouldn't recommend it. Right, that's enough train spotting from the old station at Stow. De Niro and I are now going on a pilgrimage. Ah, maybe not. Greyhounds and Styles just do not get on. Do you, De Niro? This is Stow's old kirk and graveyard, and as you can see, it's quite impressive. I mean, if you want a bit of atmosphere and a bit of history, you can't beat an old graveyard. How cool is this? That's the top slab of an old tomb, with its skull and crossbones and various little pieces of iconography. It's quite an impressive thing to find. I like that. Although, to be fair, that end of the old kirk looks quite shocked that we're actually here. This bridge is amazing. I used to drive past it as a kid and think it was just the coolest looking thing, and now standing here in front of it, it absolutely is. One of the things we've noticed since we started doing these videos for you guys is how much we miss. I must have driven past Stow 1,000 times and never stopped. And now I've been here for about an hour and I absolutely love the place. As well as all the pilgrimage stuff, there's also a darker side. Near here, 6 witches were executed in 1649. What they were accused of and why they were executed, we don't know. De Niro always on the lookout for anything exciting that's going to happen, or anybody that might have a biscuit. Right, made it to about the halfway point of today's road trip. We are at Galashiels, which is well and truly in the Scottish borders. So let's go for a look round and see what we can see. It's a really pretty place, this. Most of these borders towns are really nice and really well worth a visit. We're going to see a few of them today, so stay tuned, as they say. Not sure about this column. There's definitely something fishy about it, and there's also something fishy about the aroma. Somebody near here is smoking something that they shouldn't be. This is actually really cool. It's right in the middle of town, if you can hear me above the water, and it's one of these early 1900s things that they just used to build for the sheer hell of it, to make the place look pretty and to give it a bit of civic pride. Now, being a tour guide type thing, we should really tell you what that big building is, but at the moment I don't actually know, so I'm going to go over and see if I can find out. It's got a big clock tower on it. So the building behind me is the Borough Building and the War Memorial. It was reconstructed in 1925, and the statue that you can see in front is called the Reaver. Border Reavers are quite a big name around here. It's like the pirates in Cornwall. It's a touristy thing. It's very interesting, so we'll go and have a closer look at that. And that statue is the Reaver. History has been unusually kind to the Reavers. For a bunch of murdering, thieving raiders, they are held in very high esteem. I mean, they're not the sort of people you would want visiting you, because they'd probably come with a big sword, a flaming torch, and they would steal your cows and your sheep. Now, the Reavers have been claimed by the Scots. The Scottish border people think that they're one of their own. But the Reavers came from Scotland and England. The Scottish Reavers raided England and the English Reavers raided Scotland almost as far as Edinburgh, while the Scottish lot made it almost as far as York. There was also a code of honour, or a sort of set of laws amongst the Reavers, that if you were reaved, then you had the right, mind you, to go out and reave somebody else, as long as you let them know you were coming. That's a paraphrase, but that's pretty much how it worked. So the Reavers weren't really a very nice bunch of people, but that's history for you. You judge it, you write it, you make it up to suit yourself. The whole Reaver story brings the tourists in, so their bloody and brutal past is forgotten, and now they're just a nice statue or the name of a pub. When they weren't out reaving, the Border Reavers were also highly sought after as mercenaries. That's because they were extremely adept at lightweight, fast lightning strikes. That fighting spirit lived on in the Scottish border regiments that sprung up in the 1700s and the 1800s that were very, very highly regarded, especially by their enemies. We don't think De Niro is descended from a Border Reaver's hunting dog, unless they were hunting for biscuits and liked sleeping a lot, in which case he could well have been. In towns and villages all over the UK, you'll find these war memorials, a list of the names of the dead. Most of the ones you see are First World War.
But hey, that was supposed to be the war to end all wars, so war memorials were not going to be required anymore, because it never ever happened again. Right, so you've seen the statue of the Reaver, there's also these statues, and
this statue is called Man with a Sheep. This is the Borders, and sheep are very popular around here. Right, and that's us done with Galashiels. We are going to continue south down the scenic and beautiful A7. There's a lot to see here, so we will be back in the future to have a more detailed look round. Right, we've come a few miles down the A7 from Galashiels and now we're in Selkirk. Another pretty wee town and another place where the buildings point to a very industrial past. You just can't beat these old buildings. These are dotted about and they must at the time have been very expensive to run, very expensive to build, but worth it for someone. Now they've mostly lie derelict until they get renovated and turned into flats. And everywhere you look round about this part, there's just so many nice, old, traditional, stone-built buildings. Red sandstone, granite. Just so cool. I mean, look at that. That'd be the most amazing house. It's definitely another pretty wee place with an awful lot to do and an awful lot to see, especially on an amazingly beautiful day like this. Blue skies and sunshine. This is Scotland in January. A war memorial with a difference. This one is from the South African War as opposed to the First World War. Some signs are too good to ignore. Let's go for a wee look. Nice back streets. Past some people's houses, so we better not talk too much. This is amazing. This is so atmospheric and it's so unchanged. We're not having an awful lot of luck with this, are we? This is what happens if you go around Scotland out of season. We'll see you at Easter, Mr. Halliwell's house. It is a 4-star museum, so it's got to be worth a visit. Another narrow wee close. How pretty does that look? This place is really worth a visit. Another thing that you must see if you're in the area is this. It's the Kirk of the Forest, and it's built on the site where in 1297 William Wallace was declared Guardian of Scotland. So you think Wallace is associated with Stirling, but he's also got strong links to Selkirk. I've just been into the Kirk of the Forest, and there's 2 local gentlemen with their cans of Stella. I wasn't quite brave enough to film it, but it was an experience. So this is the Kirk of the Forest then. What an amazingly haunting and beautiful place. Get it on your list of things to see if you come to the Borders. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Scottish Borders in all their winter glory. There is actually just nowhere quite like this, and people infuse about the Highlands and the Bens, but come down here, just look at it, it's just perfect. Especially on a day like this with blue skies and sunshine, just gorgeous. And I might be about to give you a new Scottish word of the day, because I may well go skiting down this hill on my bottom. We mentioned earlier how sheep were very popular in the Borders, and that's because the whole area owes an awful lot of its prosperity to the wee woolly animals. The next stop on our journey is the town of Howick, which as you can see is another pretty place with a river going through it. And long before it was fashionable for environmental reasons, hydropower powered the Industrial Revolution in the Borders. You've seen the mill race at Gala, and the situation here was exactly the same. The water turned the wheels that drove the mills and made the mill owners very rich, and able to fund civic amenities in memory of themselves. Say hello to the camera. Say hello. Any excuse for another gratuitous shot of how pretty the scenery down here in the Borders is. We're now heading towards Carlisle and the end of our journey at the English border, but in the meantime we are really enjoying the view and the cars going past when I'm trying to talk. That's pretty cool. Up on the hill over there, there's a monument to something that I'm sure we would be able to tell you if we knew what it was. I'll tell you what, we'll find out and I will tell you a bit later. Or I'll try and edit this so it sounds like a professional and know what that is before we've even started. But I don't think I would be fooling anyone. Last stop on our trip south is Langham, another really pretty little Borders village. This one is the birthplace of Hugh McDermott, apparently, according to the signs. I have no idea who that is, but he was definitely born here. These towns have all got such an amazing character, which is only enhanced by this little dusting of snow and the sunshine. It really is stunning. I know I keep saying that, but it really is. De Niro, oi, do you want to be in this video or not? Nah, not fussed. We do hope you have enjoyed our whistle stop tour down through the Scottish Borders. Certainly hope that we've shown you that there's lots of things to see and lots of things to do. We have had a really good day and we will definitely be back. And there's the last brown sign of the day. So with that, thank you for joining us on this trip, and we'll see you next time on Scotland on a Shoestring.